This girl was given a birthday party by her friends. However, at the party, she was forced to wear a strange outfit. Her friends also constantly mocked her and sprayed her with perfume. But then she was falsely accused of being a bully. That past was always a complex for Ho-rang, so when she entered high school, she always hid it. She was obsessed with maintaining a perfect image in front of everyone. Every day when Ho-rang went to school, she wore branded clothes. When she appeared, she immediately attracted the attention of her friends. Everyone admired her wealthy family. Her daily allowance was up to 300,000 won. She also had millions of fans on social media platforms. Just posting a selfie would get countless likes. Even her daily dress was imitated by female students. When Ho-rang entered the classroom, her friends greeted her enthusiastically. However, she acted cold towards them. Ho-rang then saw Hee Soo sitting at her desk. Hee Soo was startled and quickly stood up and left, but Ho-rang told Hee Soo that she had to clean the desk first before she could leave. Although Hee Soo was upset, she still reluctantly cleaned the desk. At this time, Ho-rang discovered that someone had stolen her photo and used it to open a social media account. This account also attracted quite a lot of interactions from fans. Meanwhile, Hee Soo was showing off to her classmates that she had used Ho-rang's photo to make friends with a good guy. But just a moment later, she suddenly received countless critical messages from netizens. It turned out that Ho-rang had commented and clarified that this account was not hers. At this moment, Ho-rang happened to pass by. Hee Soo angrily called Ho-rang back and asked why Ho-rang commented so publicly. Ho-rang responded with a series of sarcastic comments. Then she turned around and was about to leave. Hee Soo angrily grabbed Ho-rang's hand. Unfortunately, Ho-rang's phone fell to the ground. At this time, Ho-rang also got angry. Ho-rang grabbed Hee Soo's phone and threw it hard on the ground. Then Ho-rang picked up her phone and left without looking back. Yoon Tak is also a very charismatic male student, and he is also the head of the school's broadcasting department. In addition, Yoon Tak is a perfectionist. He requires everything to be done properly. Thanks to his handsome appearance, he has attracted many female students to join the broadcasting department. Because of that, they have the opportunity to approach him. The female announcer of the broadcasting department confessed to Yoon Tak. She said that she actually came here because of him. She asked if he could accept her confession, but Yoon Tak coldly rejected her and sent her away. He informed the broadcasting department that he was firing her because the radio department had fired the female announcer. They were in dire need of a replacement. At this time, someone suggested that Ho-rang be the announcer. The main reason was because she had a certain amount of popularity online, so she was more suitable for the position. So Yoon Tak personally went to find Ho-rang to invite her to the radio department. But Ho-rang flatly refused. Yoon Tak was very dissatisfied with Ho-rang's attitude, so he mocked her a few sentences. Yoon Tak said that when he met her in person, he realized that Ho-rang was really like the rumors. He also asked her if she did it on purpose to become famous or if she was inherently bad and was famous. However, Ho-rang did not give up and mocked Yoon Tak for a few sentences. She asked him if he was unhappy about something. She also pointed out that he was rejected by her, which hurt his self-esteem, so he showed dissatisfaction with her. Just like that, the two of them left unhappily. On the bus ride home, Ho-rang fell asleep. Unexpectedly, Yoon Tak was also on this bus. He approached and closed the window for her. At this moment, Ho-rang suddenly woke up. She was startled and fell back. Their eyes met at a close distance. Yoon Tak immediately explained that he had called Ho-rang many times, but she did not hear, so he had to close the window himself. But only a moment later, Ho-rang opened the window again. The next day, Ho-rang leaned against a large tree to listen to the radio. She suddenly heard a story on the dial radio related to her previous experience, so Ho-rang went to the radio department to participate in an interview in order to clarify the origin of the story. Ho-rang asked Yoon Tak if she could sit down because she came for an interview. At this moment, Yoon Tak remembered what happened yesterday. At that time, the two of them were not happy and said goodbye, so he said that today's interview was over. However, a friend in the radio department helped Ho-rang. She said that the interview time was not over yet, so Yoon Tak had to start the interview. With her outstanding ability, Ho-rang quickly passed the interview round. At this time, Ho-rang wanted to find out who sent the story on the radio, but Yoon Tak said that the person sent it anonymously and they needed to keep the information confidential. On the first day of work, Ho-rang was late. This made Yoon Tak very upset because he was a person who valued time. Moreover, Ho-rang had an indifferent attitude, so Yoon Tak decided to fire Ho-rang from the radio department. Ho-rang still wanted to find out who sent the story, so she had to endure and apologize to Yoon Tak. She promised not to be late again, so Yoon Tak punished Ho-rang for cleaning the toilet. One of the students was confused because they could clearly join other clubs without doing anything, but Ho-rang agreed to clean the toilet just to stay in the radio department. Being Being a rich young lady, Ho-rang had never done this job before. She was listening to music while holding a mop and drawing circles on the floor. Suddenly, Yoon Tak walked in. Ho-rang accidentally spilled water on Yoon Tak's shoe. She quickly apologized and asked him if he was okay. He didn't say anything and left in a bad mood. That night, on the way home, Ho-rang met her old best friend named Sohan. Sohyun called Ho-rang and said that she could tell Ho-rang who sent the story on the radio. However, Ho-rang said that Sohyun didn't need to pretend to be close to her. Ho-rang didn't like Sohyun interfering in her business. Ho-rang also said that when they met in the future, they just had to pretend not to know each other. The two of them used to be very close, but now they had to pretend not to know each other. The next day, Ho-rang continued to mop the floor. Suddenly, someone opened the door. Ho-rang accidentally mopped Yoon Tak's foot. Ho-rang then asked Yoon Tak to give her access to the radio station account. The purpose was to investigate who sent the story. However, Yoon Tak said that it depended on Ho-rang's attitude, so Ho-rang went to the radio station every day to clean. Seeing this, Yoon Tak felt more sympathetic towards Ho-rang. The two even cleaned the camera together. However, not long after, Yoon Tak discovered that the person who cleaned every day was not Ho-rang. It turned out that Ho-rang had paid a friend to do this. At that time, Hee Soo was lying at home. Since Hee Soo was discovered using Ho-rang's photo to create a fake account, she was too embarrassed to go to school. At that time, a stranger sent her a message. The message content was about disgusting things about Ho-rang. So Hee Soo posted a statement online saying that a year ago, Ho-rang borrowed her account to use, not that she stole Ho-rang's photos and created the account. It was all Ho-rang's plan to frame Hee Soo. Ho-rang didn't care about these baseless things, but things weren't that simple. When Ho-rang saw the last line, an image suddenly appeared in her mind that scared her. At this time, the broadcasting department broadcast a story related to her. This made Ho-rang really angry. She rushed into the broadcasting room and grabbed the microphone. Then she directly told the anonymous person that she wasn't afraid at all, so that person shouldn't run away and should face her. Ho-rang's actions surprised everyone present. Since Yoon Tak was the head of the broadcasting department, he was also criticized by the teacher for this incident. At this time, Ho-rang asked Sohyun if she had intentionally chosen this story, but Sohyun asked Ho-rang to apologize to her first, because her actions had caused everyone to be punished. Ho-rang also apologized to her friends and asked Sohyun if she could answer now. Sohyun frankly admitted that the story was her choice. Ho-rang immediately criticized Sohyun for being shameless. If she wants to do it, then just do it. Sohyun thought that Ho-rang was the one with the problem. Ho-rang was so surprised that she was speechless. Sohyun continued to ask Ho-rang what she was afraid of that made her so nervous. At this time, Yoon Tak walked in and interrupted the two. Then Yoon Tak said something that hurt Ho-rang very much. So the two had a fight. The next day, Ho-rang felt regretful about what had happened, so she decided to go find Yoon Tak to apologize. However, Yoon Tak was still angry and he did not want to forgive Ho-rang. At first, Ho-rang only wanted to apologize, but in the end they continued to fight. The two were not happy. At night, Yoon Tak remembered the fight with Ho-rang during the day. Actually, he felt a little regretful, so he went online to find out about Ho-rang and found out that the comments were full of ridicule for her. At this point, Yoon Tak changed his view of Ho-rang. It turned out that she acted cold every day to protect herself. That night, Ho-rang was walking home alone when she suddenly heard footsteps behind her. She always felt like someone was following her. Ho-rang shouted, startling Yoon Tak. It turned out that the person following Ho-rang was Yoon Tak. She asked why he was here. He replied that he was going home. She said she was on her way home. She wondered if he was also in the future apartment complex. Yoon Tak nodded in confirmation. Ho-rang felt a little uncomfortable with someone following her, so she told Yoon Tak to go ahead. When they were about to get home, Yoon Tak called Ho-rang back and asked her if it was tiring to live like this every day. Ho-rang thought that Yoon Tak wanted to argue with her again, so she asked if he wanted to argue with her right here. He said that he didn't want to argue with her. He was just telling the truth. He apologized for their argument in the morning. He asked if his words hurt her. However, Ho-rang replied that she didn't care because she had heard too many harsh comments about herself. What he said was nothing. After clearing up the misunderstanding, the two sat down to talk. At that time, Ho-rang discovered that there was gum stuck to the sole of her shoe. Yoon Tak was about to get a tissue for Ho-rang, but she took out his favorite record to take out the gum. Suddenly, she broke the record. The next day, Ho-rang went to work as usual at the broadcasting department. Yoon Tak also gave the broadcasting department account to Ho-rang. Ho-rang logged into the account and looked at the information of the person who sent the story, but she didn't find any useful information. However, Ho-rang discovered that the account was So-hyun's friend. At this time, Ho-rang remembered the scene where So-hyun read the story, and she began to have some doubts about So-hyun. But Ho-rang did not believe believe that Sohyun was involved, because Ho-rang knew Sohyun quite well. In middle school, the two met when they were late for school. They became best friends. Then Ho-rang experienced some kind of shock, so she started to distance herself from Sohyun. Back to reality. After school, Yoon Tak and Ho-rang went to buy a new CD together. Then Yoon Tak received a text message from his father. Because he did not want to face his father, he wanted to come home a little later. So he asked Ho-rang to go out to dinner. Then the two bought some snacks, and they sat on the side of the road, chatting and enjoying them. The next day, Ho-rang overslept, so she did not go to school. She sat on the side of the road looking at her phone, when suddenly she received a reply message from the person who sent the story. The other person also knew her identity. This made her feel extremely confused. Sohyun remembered that Sohyun had been looking at her phone recently. So Ho-rang became suspicious of Sohyun. At that moment, Sohyun happened to pass by. When Sohyun saw Ho-rang, she was about to turn around and leave. However, Ho-rang called Sohyun back and asked her if she had done something. Sohyun doubtfully asked Ho-rang what she meant, but Ho-rang only asked if Sohyun had really done it. Memories of the past suddenly returned to Sohyun's mind. When Sohyun was about to fall to the ground, a pair of hands suddenly pulled her back. It was Ho-rang. At that time, they were very close to each other. They had jewelry that showed their friendship. However, ever since some students bullied Ho-rang, she became a different person and started to distance herself from Sohyun. For that reason, Sohyun went to find Ho-rang to clarify the reason. Unexpectedly, when the two met, they started arguing. In the end, they decided to stop hanging out. Back in reality, Sohan still didn't understand what Ho-rang had gone through. Furthermore, Ho-rang asked Sohan about the account she posted on. Sohan seemed to not understand what Ho-rang was saying, and she was angry that Ho-rang doubted her. Sohan blamed Ho-rang for only caring about what she wanted to say. Ho-rang seemed surprised by Sohan's reaction. Sohyun continued to say that even though she didn't know the reason, Ho-rang shouldn't use that expression to doubt others, because it really made people feel bad. Sohyun also said that they shouldn't talk to each other anymore. Sohyun then went to Yoon Tak to explain that she wasn't compatible with Ho-rang, and that she didn't want to give Ho-rang the broadcasting department's work. Yoon Tak had no choice but to give Ho-rang the work himself, so he taught her how to use the broadcasting equipment. He asked her to memorize everything. She also had to take exams later. When she heard about the exams, Ho-rang was about to give up, but Yoon Tak suddenly approached Ho-rang and said that she was a fast learner and that she could do it. Ho-rang tried to hold back her emotions because it seemed like she liked him, so she focused and listened carefully. But at the moment, she couldn't hear what he was saying. In her mind, there was only the image of his handsome face close to hers. Ho-rang was so tired from studying today that she fell asleep in the broadcasting department. Yoon Tak walked in and saw Ho-rang sleeping soundly. He couldn't help but look at her. Realizing that the sunlight was a bit bright, he took off his uniform and hung it on the window to shade her. Ho-rang suddenly woke up and saw Yoon Tak using his shirt to shade her from the sun. This made her a little move. When Ho-rang saw Yoon Tak suddenly turn around, she pretended to have just woken up. He then tested her. After many attempts, she finally got a perfect score. Ho-rang was surprised and happy with this result. At the weekend, some friends asked Ho-rang to go out for dinner. When Ho-rang looked at the photo that her friend sent her, she saw that Sohyun was also in the photo. Ho-rang remembered the argument with Sohyun, so she felt embarrassed and decided not to go. On the other side, Ho-rang's friend received the news that she did not come, so he made an excuse that she was busy. She always ate alone. Hearing that, Yoon Tak immediately made an excuse that he had to go home. In fact, he had asked Ho-rang to go out for dinner. He used the excuse that he wanted to eat sushi to invite her to eat together. At this time, Yoon Tak discovered that there was a lipstick mark on Ho-rang's hand that had not been wiped off. So he took her hand and used a tissue to wipe it carefully. Ho-rang felt warm at this action. Yoon Tak told Ho-rang that he had always suspected her purpose in coming to the broadcasting department. He hoped she could share with him. When the two were about to go home, Ho-rang suddenly received a threatening message from a mysterious person. After reading the message, she suddenly wanted to tell Yoon Tak about this, so she quickly chased after him and pulled him back, but she didn't have the courage to say it. The next morning, Ho-rang's parents prepared a table of delicious food. Ho-rang was very surprised, because today was her birthday. Her mother specially prepared a birthday cake, but she was still unhappy and told her mother that she didn't like to eat these things. As soon as she finished speaking, her mother received a phone call and hurriedly left. Now she was alone at home. This made her feel a little disappointed. On the way to school, Ho-rang met Sohyun on the bus. Suddenly, Ho-rang heard someone gossiping about Sohyun. Ho-rang couldn't listen anymore, so she stood up to protect Sohyun and clarify the truth. Sohyun also heard these words. The two looked at each other for a while, but no one said anything. During the student council meeting, someone made fun of Ho-rang. Ho-rang did not let that person off the hook. She told him that it was only appropriate to joke around when there were only 2 people. Ho Rang asked him if he knew that she was in charge of hosting that part of the program. He immediately wondered how he knew that. However, Ho Rang said that the people who needed to know already knew, and she also mocked his poor information gathering skills. To prove her ability, she decided to be in charge of hosting the school's anniversary program. When the meeting ended, Yoon Tak told Ho Rang to broadcast live at noon. This was an opportunity for her to practice her hosting skills. During class, the mysterious person sent her a message mocking her. That person thought that she was in charge of hosting the anniversary program just to attract more attention. This statement surprised Ho Rang. She wondered how that person knew that she was the host of the program. She was sure that this person was also present at the meeting, so Ho Rang decided to ask that person. However, when she asked that person, he pretended not to know anything. When Ho Rang said that she would ask each person one by one, that person was scared. At noon, Ho Rang did her first live broadcast. When the program was about to end, she threw the script aside and expressed her opinion. She believed that sincerity was the most important thing in a conversation. When it was sincere, it didn't take an hour. Ho Rang's actions surprised Yoon Tak and Sohan. Unexpectedly, this received praise from the students. Everyone was surprised when they knew that it was Ho Rang's voice. The teacher also told Yoon Tak that the noon program didn't need much talking. They did very well today. Even the teacher wanted to send in a paper for everyone. The students were surprised to learn that teachers could also submit their stories. Yoon Tak was happy for Ho Rang after hearing these compliments. So after class, he called her to the broadcasting department to check the sound. Ho Rang felt very unfamiliar with using a walkie-talkie for the first time, but she seemed to enjoy it. Ho Rang tried to ask Yoon Tak if she could hear her voice. Yoon Tak replied that he could. Ho Rang then asked Yoon Tak why he didn't blame her for not following the script. Although Yoon Tak always followed the plan, he agreed with Ho Rang's point of view. He also encouraged her that she had worked hard for her first broadcast today. He hadn't had a chance to thank her yet, but when Yoon Tak said it, it felt like a confession. It turned out that he had prepared a birthday present for her. When she opened her backpack, she found a bottle of perfume. This immediately brought back the unpleasant memories of that year. Ho Rang felt a little short of breath. She tried to open the window but couldn't. When she was desperate, the window was opened. Ho Rang took a deep breath. When Ho Rang heard Yoon Tak's call, she came back to her senses. One day, when Yoon Tak was sorting out documents, he accidentally discovered a video of Ho Rang singing. He suddenly found her quite cute. A warm smile also appeared on his face. Early that morning, Ho Rang went to school. As soon as she entered the gate, a friend called her back. This friend asked her to write down a movie she wanted to watch. She was then instructed to stick it on the wishing tree. Suddenly, a boy appeared behind her. Yoon Tak told Ho Rang that she was too early. Ho Rang turned around and unconsciously stepped back in surprise. That almost caused her to fall. Luckily, Yoon Tak supported Ho Rang. The two looked at each other for a while. At this point, the atmosphere became extremely awkward. So Ho Rang quickly found a topic to talk about. When the school's anniversary was approaching, Yoon Tak assigned everyone a job. One of the students asked everyone to do a fighting move. Everyone raised their hands, but Ho Rang looked disgusted. However, Yoon Tak took Ho Rang's hand and placed it on everyone's hand. Then they went to the auditorium to prepare for the school's anniversary. Ho Rang also started practicing. Everything went very smoothly. The relationship between Ho Rang and Yoon Tak became better and better. After the rehearsal, everyone gathered together to discuss the progress of today's work. Sohan announced that she would go to the supermarket to buy things. However, she needed one more person to go with her. Everyone said that they still had work to do. At that time, all eyes were on Ho Rang, so Ho Rang decided to go with Sohan. The two people who were not compatible had to go to the supermarket together. This made the atmosphere very awkward. The two of them only talked for a few sentences before they mentioned unpleasant things. As a result, both of them left unhappily. After finishing shopping, when Ho Rang returned to the broadcasting department, Ho Rang discovered that Yoon Tak had not returned home yet. Yoon Tak was startled when he saw Ho Rang suddenly lean close to his face. He explained that he had lost a video clip, so he needed to go to the rooftop to film it. Ho Rang also wanted to go with Yoon Tak. The weather was quite cold at night. Ho Rang seemed to be wearing thin clothes, so Yoon Tak kindly put a coat on her. This action made her very confused. After that, the two of them went to the rooftop together, took pictures, listened to music, chatted, and enjoyed the breeze. Maybe happiness is that simple. After that, the two of them went home together. At this time, Yoon Tak expressed that he felt very comfortable being with Ho Rang. He thought it was because she was a good. Now that he has stabilized his emotions, Ho Rang does not understand what Yoon Tak is trying to say. Yoon Tak replies that he seems to like Ho Rang. This sudden confession makes Ho Rang extremely surprised. The next next day is the school anniversary, so everyone is busy preparing for the anniversary. At this time, Yoon Tak is also arranging tasks for each friend. At this time, Ho Rang has just arrived. Yoon Tak talks to Ho Rang seriously. This makes her feel very confused. At this time, Ho Rang remembers that Yoon Tak confessed to her yesterday. She wonders how he could be so different from yesterday. At that time, Yoon Tak said that he likes Ho Rang, but he has no intention of forcing her to like him back. He hopes she does not feel uncomfortable. Ho Rang is startled back to reality when she hears Yoon Tak's voice. Yoon Tak asks Ho Rang if she can hear him. The practice before the anniversary is about to start, so Yoon Tak tells Ho Rang to get the USB. However, she discovered that the USB in her bag was gone. She searched for a while and finally realized that the USB had fallen to the ground. Ho Rang happily announced that she had found it, but she did not understand why the USB was there. Yoon Tak seriously asked Ho Rang to give him the USB. He reminded her that when they had their official performance later, she must concentrate. Ho Rang looked at Yoon Tak's serious expression and felt angry. She wondered if this was his attitude towards the person he had confessed to. At lunchtime, Yoon Tak showed concern for Ho Rang again. At this time, Ho Rang could not help but ask Yoon Tak why he was so serious with her in the morning. Yoon Tak replied that it was because Ho Rang had done something wrong. Love and work were two separate things. Ho Rang finally understood that Yoon Tak was a person who clearly distinguished between work and personal life. After the meal, they went to the venue of the celebration. On the way, they found the name of the movie that Yoon Tak wrote on the wishing tree yesterday on the bulletin board, so the two of them decided to go watch the movie. Yoon Tak said that he had watched this movie at least 10 times. He knew all the lines. Ho Rang looked like he didn't believe it, so Yoon Tak whispered the next line in her ear, which was, "I like you." This confession made Ho Rang's heart beat faster. The live broadcast that evening was about to begin. As soon as Ho Rang appeared, the audience below cheered. The live broadcast officially began. Everyone picked up their phones to watch Ho Rang's broadcast. She read the stories sent in by the audience and expressed her opinion on each story. Ho Rang also received countless compliments from the audience. When it came to the question and answer session, Ho Rang answered each comment one by one. Suddenly, a comment asked if she had a boyfriend. Ho Rang was silent for a moment. Then she looked at Yoon Tak. Both of them felt a little embarrassed. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. A strange countdown appeared on the commentary screen. Along with it was a comment that it was time for Ho Rang to get off the stage. When the countdown ended, all the audience members received an anonymous message. At this time, many mocking comments appeared on the screen. Ho Rang did not know what was going on, so she clicked on the link on the commentary screen. Then she saw a photo. It suddenly reminded her of what had happened. Then a series of sentences rang out in her head. Ho Rang was accused of bullying her friends, so Hyun saw that the situation was not good, so she quickly told her friends to turn off the lights. At this moment, Ho Rang felt short of breath. She wanted to leave the scene, but she felt her whole body stiffen. Yoon Tak also quickly ran onto the stage and pulled the curtain back. He called Ho Rang's name and took her away from the scene. When they got outside, Ho Rang said that she wanted to leave by herself first. Yoon Tak had no choice but to let go. On the way home, Ho Rang saw many comments mocking her. She remembered what had just happened and the insults. At that moment, she couldn't hold back her tears. The next day, Ho Rang didn't come to school. Her friends were all gossiping about her. Jae felt a little uncomfortable, so she immediately went over and argued with her friends. During the argument, she dropped a friend's pen on the ground. At that moment, Ho Rang appeared and picked up the pen. She asked her friend what she had to admit. Ho Rang then dropped her friend's pen on the ground and told him to pick it up himself. She then went to the broadcasting room as if nothing had happened. She started reading a story. Ho Rang's voice came from the loudspeaker, surprising all her friends. While Jae was happy for Ho Rang, she heard the friend next to her say that Ho Rang was shameless for staying in the broadcasting room. Jae couldn't stand it when she heard others badmouthing Ho Rang. She almost rushed over and slapped the female student a few times. After the broadcast ended, the students gathered for a meeting. Yoon Tak assigned tasks to each person. Ho Rang took the initiative to clean the hall herself. Yoon Tak agreed. During class, Ho Rang recalled what happened in the morning. It turned out that she was late because she met a classmate from middle school. This classmate was the one who bullied Ho Rang. She came to find Ho Rang because she was in the photo that was reported yesterday, so she was also implicated. She also mocked Ho Rang, making Ho Rang not dare to make this public. Actually, Ho Rang didn't dare to make it public because she didn't want others to see her miserable appearance. In any case, these things had haunted her a lot. While Yoon Tak was getting his things, Sohan reminded him that it would be difficult for her to leave Ho Rang to clean the hall alone because there were a lot of people in the hall. At this time, Ho Rang also arrived at the hall. The two girls greeted Ho Rang and deliberately mentioned yesterday's incident. Ho Rang also refused to give up and responded. As soon as Yoon Tak arrived, he also saw this scene. Seeing Ho Rang leave, he immediately followed her. Then he saw her crying in a corner. He also did not comfort her because he knew she did not want others to see her weak side. In the evening, Yoon Tak called Ho Rang. He wanted to comfort her, but he did not know what to say, so he told her a lot of random things. Not only did she not feel bored, but she also felt happy. To reduce the awkwardness, Yoon Tak invited Ho Rang to watch a movie. Ho Rang also happily agreed. Then they went to the Radio Room's movie theater. The two of them enjoyed the movie together. While they were happily watching the movie, Ho Rang talked about the female lead in the movie. She thought that if the female lead didn't reveal her secret, she probably wouldn't have a sad ending. This reminded Yoon Tak of Ho Rang's story, so he said that she should also tell them all. He would wait for her until she was ready to share. The two of them continued watching the movie and gradually fell asleep. The next morning, the sunlight shone through the window. Ho Rang woke up and saw Yoon Tak leaning against the railing, fast asleep. She looked at him with the most affectionate eyes, but she felt that the sunlight was too bright. She immediately went closer and used her hand to shield him from the sun. Yoon Tak suddenly woke up and held Ho Rang's hand. The two of them looked at each other for a while. Ho Rang shyly let go. The next day, at the Radio Room meeting, Yoon Tak accidentally revealed that the two of them had come here for the weekend. The other members immediately asked them why. They were together for the weekend. The two of them were silent and didn't dare to say anything. After the meeting ended, because Sohan didn't believe the rumors, she called Ho Rang back and asked what had happened. Sohan also wanted to know if the reason for their previous argument was related to this matter. However, Ho Rang still refused to say anything. While Sohan was sorting out the documents, she received an email from a friend. Sohan opened the video in the email and watched it. Suddenly, Sohan discovered that Hee Soo had intentionally thrown Ho Rang's USB on the ground on the school's anniversary day. At that time, Ho Rang was also blamed by Yoon Tak for this. This made Sohan remember that Hee Soo had secretly searched for the videotape not long ago. At this time, Hee Soo suddenly walked in. Sohan was about to ask Hee Soo about this when Ho Rang also walked in. Sohan was surprised to see Hee Soo talking and laughing happily with Ho Rang. She didn't expect her to be such a fake person. A few days later, the school organized an outdoor camping activity. Sohyun saw Hee Soo taking pictures with her friends, so she quickly ran over and said she could help them take pictures. While taking pictures, Sohyun deliberately pressed the lock screen button. Hee Soo was too lazy to unlock it, so she told Hee Soo the password. Then, when Hee Soo wasn't paying attention, Sohyun secretly stole her phone. Sohyun hid to the side and unlocked the phone with the password. When Sohyun opened the photo album, she found many pictures of Ho Rang being bullied. There were even pictures that were released on the school's anniversary. At this time, Sohan was able to confirm that the person who sent the article to the broadcasting room and the person who released the news on the anniversary was Hee Soo. Hee Soo discovered that her phone was missing, so she searched everywhere. When she found her phone, all the pictures in it had been deleted. At this time, Hee Soo also received a message from Sohan asking her to go out to talk. Hee Soo arrived at the meeting place and found out that it was Sohyun who took her phone. So Hee Soo asked Sohyun why she did that. Sohyun exposed Hee Soo's actions. Hee Soo realized that she couldn't hide it anymore, so she frankly admitted everything. Hee Soo then said that when she was in middle school, she and Ho Rang were in the same class for a year, but Ho Rang always ignored Hee Soo. This made her very angry, so she did that to get revenge on Ho Rang. Hee Soo also made it clear that Ho Rang was being bullied. She witnessed it with her own eyes and recorded it with her phone. Even now, even though Ho Rang was accused of bullying her, she didn't dare admit it. After Sohyun heard these words, she finally understood why Ho Rang had avoided her. It was because Ho Rang didn't want Sohyun to see her miserable state. Ho Rang has been avoiding Sohyun ever since. Sohyun remembers that she had seen some unfriendly messages sent to Ho Rang's phone before, but at that time Sohyun didn't realize Ho Rang's instability. Now, Sohyun understands everything. That made her sad all night. The next day, when Sohan met Ho Rang, she pretended that nothing had happened. Sohan wanted to explain everything to Ho Rang, but in the end, she stopped because Sohan knew that Ho Rang was very proud. If Sohan made this public, it would hurt Ho Rang. After that, Sohan and Hee Soo agreed to keep everything a secret. Sohyun also hoped that Hee Soo would not hurt Ho Rang again from now on. That night, Yoon Tak and Ho Rang went home together. They were talking about going out together on the weekend. When Ho Rang picked up her phone to look at the list of places to have fun, she accidentally saw Hee Soo's post, in which Hee Soo asserted that she was the victim of bullying by Ho Rang. Ho Rang's expression immediately changed. Then she said that she had something to do and had to leave first, but she was called back by Yoon Tak. He asked her what happened happened. Ho-ran said that she would tell him everything later. Then she hurriedly left. At the same time, Sohan also saw Hee Soo's post. This made Sohan very angry. Sohan called Hee Soo, but she didn't answer. At this time, Ho-ran found Hee Soo and directly exposed her purpose. It turned out that Ho-ran had suspected Hee Soo through much evidence. When Hee Soo was exposed, not only did she not show fear, but she also mocked Ho-ran's miserable appearance in the past. Hee Soo also deliberately said that Sohan had known about this for a long time. Then Sohan also appeared. When Ho-ran saw Sohan, she asked why Sohan was here. Sohan quickly explained that she had just found out about it. Hee Soo approached Ho-ran to show her concern. However, Ho-ran's pride was hurt. Ho-ran did not want to hear any explanation and decided to leave. Sohan chased after her and called her back. Sohan said that it was Ho-ran who had pushed her away without any explanation. This had made Sohan resent Ho-ran for the past few years. When Sohan learned the truth, she felt extremely regretful and was sad all night. However, Sohan had to pretend not to know because she knew Ho-ran did not want others to know about this. Ho-ran told Sohan to pretend not to know. Ho-ran did not need Sohan to pity. This made Sohan very heartbroken. The next morning, Ho-ran went to Hee Soo's class but did not see Hee Soo. So Ho-ran texted to ask where Hee Soo was. Hee Soo replied that she was in the broadcasting room and that she was about to tell Yoon Tak about Ho-ran's story. After Ho-ran saw the message, she immediately went to the broadcasting room. Ho-ran thought that Hee Soo had told Yoon Tak everything. As soon as Ho-ran entered the door, she yelled at Hee Soo, but Hee Soo acted pitiful so that Yoon Tak misunderstood Ho-ran. Yoon Tak, who was standing next to them, couldn't stand it anymore, so he stepped forward to interrupt them. Yoon Tak said that they were just discussing work. At the same time, Yoon Tak blamed Ho-ran for not being able to contact her all weekend. Then Yoon Tak told Hee Soo to go ahead. Yoon Tak asked Ho-ran again why he couldn't contact her all weekend, but Ho-ran didn't want to answer these questions at the moment. She said that she would contact him later. Then Ho-ran chased Hee Soo and took her to an empty classroom. Here, Ho-ran asked Hee Soo what she wanted to do. Hee Soo explained that the reason she acted like that was because Ho-ran had ignored her before. That year, Hee Soo had taken the initiative to greet Ho-ran, but Ho-ran ignored her in front of her classmates, so Hee Soo was ridiculed and isolated by her friends. From then on, Hee Soo felt that Ho-ran was a fake person. Hee Soo then asked Ho-ran to leave the broadcasting room and stay away from her friends. Hee Soo wanted Ho-ran to experience the feeling of isolation as well. Hee Soo declared that there was still a video on her phone. If Ho-ran did not leave, she would make the video public. Ho-ran did not know what to choose. Ho-ran's friends were worried because they could not contact her. At the same time, Sohan came to class and informed Yoon Tak that Ho-ran was missing. Yoon Tak calmly replied that he was still waiting for Ho-ran to take the initiative to tell him the truth. Sohan saw Yoon Tak's sad expression and comforted him that Ho-ran would tell him the truth. At this time, Ho-ran was hiding in a corner and watching her group friends continuously sending her messages of concern. It was obvious that Ho-ran really wanted to reply to them, but because of Hee Soo's threats, she could. She had no choice but to leave the radio room and stay away from her friends. At this time, the radio room's daily meeting began. Yoon Tak looked at Ho-ran's absent position beside him and felt unfamiliar. At this time, Hee Soo asked about Ho-ran's work. Yoon Tak replied that he had arranged other jobs for Ho-ran and he had no intention of letting her leave. This made Hee Soo very unhappy. At this time, a friend discovered that Ho-ran had left the radio room group. At the same time, Yoon Tak also received a message from Ho-ran. He immediately stood up to find her to find out the situation. On the way, Yoon Tak was stopped by Hee Soo. Hee Soo explained that Ho-ran's purpose in coming to the radio room was to investigate who sent the story. Hee Soo said that the two stories in the radio room were both sent by her because Hee Soo had been bullied by Ho-ran, and until now, she was still living in the dark. Now Ho-ran is living carefree as if nothing happened. That's why Hee Soo wrote these stories to vent her anger. Hee Soo's words also reminded Yoon Tak of something. Ho-ran asked Yoon Tak about the radio room account many times. From then on, Yoon Tak began to suspect Ho-ran. At the same time, Ho-ran came to class and was packing up to go home, but Jae called Ho-ran back. Jae came to give Ho-ran a sandwich, but Ho-ran didn't accept it. When she let go, the sandwich fell to the ground. At this time, Jae was a little angry and asked if the rumors were true. Ho-ran frankly admitted that she was the bully. Then she turned and left the classroom. At night, Ho-ran received a text message from Yoon Tak. Yoon Tak said that he was still waiting for Ho-ran to appear downstairs. Ho-ran hurriedly ran downstairs. After the two met, Yoon Tak said that he had always been waiting for Ho-ran to tell him everything. At the same time, he expressed his fear that the rumors online might be true. This made Ho-ran realize that Yoon Tak did not trust her. Ho-ran told Yoon Tak not to wait anymore. She said that it was better to be a bully than a victim, Yoon Tak was very disappointed. He then said that he regretted ever liking her. At the same time, Yoon Tak also agreed to let Ho Rang leave the broadcasting room. After that, Ho Rang watched Yoon Tak's back as she left, and she could not stop crying. The next day, Yoon Tak announced that Ho Rang had officially left the broadcasting room. The next morning, Ho Rang told her mother that she wanted to quit school because her mother had heard rumors about her from a subordinate in the company. Her mother encouraged her that when things happened, she needed to face them bravely and not avoid them forever. Then her mother advised her to try harder for a while longer. At this time, Hee Soo pretended to cry in front of her friends to gain everyone's minds sympathy. They were convinced that Ho Rang had bullied Hee Soo. After Yoon Tak had argued with Ho Rang, he felt a little distracted. His friend comforted him that no one was completely right in love. No matter what the reason was for their argument, nothing was more painful than being separated. At this time, Yoon Tak received a text message from his mother asking to meet. Actually, Yoon Tak's parents had been divorced since he was young. All these years, Yoon Tak lived with his father. His mother said that she would visit him often, but she never kept her promise. This made him very sad. This time, he decided to refuse to meet his mother. But since he hadn't seen his mother for many years, he finally agreed. Then he went to the meeting place and finally met his mother after many years. The two of them ate and talked together. After dinner, he politely said goodbye to his mother. As soon as he walked out, his mother chased after him and called him back. Because she was afraid that this time, she would miss the chance to tell him what was in her heart. She didn't know when she would be able to see him again. She regretted not hugging him more before leaving. She had made plans to see him many times, but she didn't have the courage to see him again. She apologized to him for the promises she couldn't keep. At this time, he also remembered what Ho Rang had said to him, that because she loved him, she wanted to show him the best things. At this time, Yoon Tak also realized that his mother still loved him. The next day, Ho Rang received the recording of Yoon Tak's radio program. It turned out that Yoon Tak also understood what Ho Rang had said. This helped him understand her pain of hiding the truth and not daring to say it, so he regretted not understanding her. He also apologized to her. Ho Rang heard Yoon Tak's apology on the radio and burst into tears. The graduation exam is approaching, but Ho Rang still doesn't come to school. So there are rumors that Ho Rang will quit school. Hee Soo is still telling her friends about Ho Rang bullying her. At this moment, Sohan suddenly appears. Hee Soo is too embarrassed to continue. Sohan tells Hee Soo not to worry about her. Hee Soo just continues doing her work. In another development, Yoon Tak announces on the radio that there will be a live broadcast today. When the friends are curious about who will be the host, Yoon Tak immediately replies that they don't need to worry because the host will come soon. At this moment, Ho Rang appears. She wants to tell the truth about everything. It turns out that last night, she took the initiative to go to Yoon Tak and told him that she was not the school bully but the victim. After Yoon Tak heard the truth, he felt heartbroken and hugged Ho Rang tightly. Ho Rang then told the whole story to Yoon Tak. After Yoon Tak found out about the incident, he told Ho Rang to let him handle it, so he planned a live broadcast at school. Ho Rang turned on the screen in class, surprising Hee Soo. Ho Rang was on the screen. She decided to tell the truth that she was a victim of school bullying. On her birthday 2 years ago, her friends called her to a karaoke bar to celebrate her birthday, but then she was humiliated there. She didn't dare to tell the truth because she was afraid that people would look at her strangely. When she was falsely accused of being a bully, she didn't care about it because she used to think that the victim was more ashamed than the bully, but now she finally understood everything. The friends around her wanted to know the truth more, so she decided to stop hiding and bravely tell the truth, not only for herself, but also for the people who cared about her. At the same time, Sohyun also came to Hee Soo and asked her to stop. Hee Soo still argued. Sohyun took out the video of Hee Soo bullying Ho Rang. After Hee Soo watched the video, she started to worry. Sohyun also showed the video to her classmates. Hee Soo finally admitted everything, but Hee Soo criticized everyone that they also participated in bad-mouthing Ho Rang. At this time, Jae knew the truth and rushed in with the intention of beating Hee Soo. Jae scolded Ho Rang as crazy. After that, Ho Rang's face also showed a relieved smile after many days. Ho Rang walked out of the broadcasting room. Yoon Tak hugged Ho Rang tightly. At this time, Jae also came to the broadcasting room and hugged Ho Rang. Everyone was very happy that Ho Rang dared to tell the truth. In another development, Hee Soo was called a liar by his classmates. Yoon Tak also asked Hee Soo to pack up and leave the broadcasting room. On the weekend, Ho Rang and Yoon Tak had their first date. They had dinner together, then they went shopping and took pictures together. At night, Ho Rang took the initiative to confess to Yoon Tak. She felt that she should have said this earlier, but she did not grasp the right time. Ho Rang suggested to Yoon Tak that they date. After so many things happened, the two finally started a beautiful beautiful love. On the way home, Sohan brought Horan's favorite food to find her. So Hyun asked Horan if she wanted to eat. Then the two sat in the same place to eat and chat together. From then on, they became best friends again. The drama has ended here. Thank you for your attention and watching. Goodbye and see you again.